I just for me, I came to Adabo Mazan Samana to an abrow, and some P. No reason him or your man Ghana. Na ya shoye Grayman some has also tomorrow him. Yes, some nibia. I'm paying Niska some swap for Machera Fanas Minister, or don't contain it to Makotugua. Now, so I and I cheku. Or ye ministry Sibiara and Huniska, ministry Sibian Huniska. In the Boko share or ye Ghana Education Service, or so far, or ye Osher, or ye do Honorable Harry Drusu, and yes, some Joffisha, it's in Como, if you are Bria. Because it's in something now, go to Maka, Naya Ba, Naya Botchu home common. The mouse sooner, or ye infant Pim School, was a Johnny Shakana, I think so, yes, Johnny Shakan. Nkuyimizabu tell the bon who or national science and math quiz no uguda wo shrine wo sunsuruma ye shrine wa akwa akasra or fefrimanto minister ogwa meche minister suafo mayor honorable justice George Justice Ata ebeko ekete nsam na bia atomo dutuga amampanyi to ndramani mama osi sambre sebegofo gbogbo nsam ho fa aya beyin nkitehuza Oba madoro de nsa shakrati ase na mi kofi paaze sa Ghana udiske je ya owono ho Ghana za udije biara wono ho abedi nti ne iya no udije ibinim awo ho otwetwe ho komo na wontua do na won san ho nachi woza asana aba wose aye afrofa aba for what na ne zamadumedi biara mbrehye bagofie wudi nkane ye ma aba no kwan ma fra me ya awra wotumo sha asofo huni sika an waja allowance aka ka hu ni na wora wo sa asefofo o se na twede ya iso obetitenyi worotwekwa worotweba na no so ba so aka tere nchen na fofo sa ase na aba anware kan wo wi sika no fa o se na se abandon na azan wa twede kudi bebi na fo so sha ase wo so nsa no famra na anepe bi ka se me chama o se de he anhwe ne ya here speaker na fantika se bia wotumo ka wo sa na maduam kokoduam na adole yi Orboa. So now I don't know, okay, sir. I'm number 3. What is your number? Near speaking, okay. Speaking, what kind of master me here on Beshabogofi? I see. My number is number 3. What is your number? That's shows there. I'm paying in Yaha. Nedge in Yaha. I know number 3. What number Yahin? In your number. You say number 3 is down over there, number 10. A woman, some to Queen. But also all them ready to me. Embre Kuyan would to be good was some of the other. It's a Yapuno to come. Ebe that nso san ho akiri biem mpa ya gba there akiri da wotu mo sani adan san papa amampan kuyara na wajen sempedo osi Ghana hiniska samno no ye sha ase yi hu dwuma 60 years na mmom wa atotefe be mbom adama oya Bank of Ghana there wo mo mazina wo ma education proper education wo fa nkire nnazema oya Ghana fo ekwanpa ya ba for the year krosika ekwana ebotwe hiska samiye ekwana ebafure yetume ezi hinigwa ekwana ebafure yetume ezi himigwa ziriado basi bi gina Ghana ha o the Ghana cities botaade no not dollar not to modotaade amampere de menza mehi onomboa nti ekwana ebafure yakro hiska ekwana ebafure yetume ezigwa ekwana ebafure yetume ahwe yin ye de menza meni hina osi Bank of Ghana wo ye de mentete won fama oye etime mfu iyi na pinyo keke won na ndo ya ba mazen nda ukurei ya ba mazen efietu ya ba be akire ndazema ye dan wo sema ba bi na sa petroleum fa ye ho na nche ye kwa ho nka abore mbra
Mido Ghana biana o fa jebi wi aba besu en fita no pa e say baby she manga shi
Junior I'm saying so now for me be there no.
Sister cause pa. It's woni gas.
I'm using the why. My why?
Down yankana wa.
Sister cause. Use gas. Gas ye fast, ye easy, ye convenient. And wow.
Let me see your hand.
Right, yeah, so I'm a car baby. I saw my cousin when you go. I put me as it. Right. Kind of budgets working can. At say, we'll be able to enjoy and count for budget. No, it's in the pin. Okay, I will at the budget and motor. Nay, I could have share for share. Woman share the sonnet of Tuga.
Come on, that's it. Our politicians who one times I will use. Minimade. Another minimum time of the trip. And I want to Najampa. And I want to obey. And I want to ye. Minimum didn't hold the tilmo. But my only eye there, why a budget? On a year shop one. Sand on now Bob Wama ministry be a one when I come home, boards are I feel. Which I feel the balloon or bachelor only Ginado. Sanda say, ministry no say, Yame on Adoma. Yame on Adoma was a one one of the Botua. You were Yebura a phenomenon. Nature my office be an department to be a war. I say you want to be the budget. Nti edeba na oda to ma ban ne be no ho oboboa omboa inyo oboboa onso nya obobodo wonyin fim mfeyinkan dama nti the most important thing there why budget nti no chere say siare ya yewomi ana pempe ya yewomi fitirem bi ya dikesi oye next year ya be share January asem aso yi bia nwobutu oba kade wa moma akohoma kama ona yeta ye bedi yaw aso yi bia ni ntum nkade na wa moma akohoma da madenu na NCCA wo pia da madenu ye wo pia ka nyawo nkoti Ghana National Fire Service wapeka nyaho nkote Ghana Police Service wapeka nyaho nkote ada JCCP wa Ghana ha wapere ma sama ka ni nya kade yenya logistics emfa nya aduma yenya dam yenya district office biala yenya regional office biala no why is your budget? What your budget answer na budget boko biano what my department another ministry bia the budget doko or come on finance minister obi ade propose budget doko osu suda afi meet them afi obe meet them only to the accountant control accountant general anambwa the man super the you know until you word them oh KOFI asoya say idiska wa from ma
Yokofa.
Oh you Yokofu auditor general Gabo auditor general answer na we ba the reporting what show previous one answer na wa show current account in answer na budget no baba na wide ministry bi anade in say rekamo mo hwe kwande yebu 2026 January February na yonko police wona police won kan chen na munya akade yako Ghana prison service na prison service won kan chen munya akade ni ebisa wona budget na wo ye na ho wo ye on allocation of the budget wona do wo ye da won ni bu na budget so ya agenkwa so ya bakama so ya wa akama hen so ba ye mo tibiala da ho ni ibu ndika so waba the most important thing na why a budget we read ya da emyase sika waboboni na ya che wato ya kwapia to ya hwe nesi ansem obisi
right ya hwe nesi ansem obisi nti ye kohwe oyesuafa ohwe wumesuan do onobo Haruna Idrisu onsem chofo ehia na yehu abonkomo wi e baba abohwe budget ne bi ye nka de hye hono ye Ghana yumihen ya judge nazem bawuto mo hwe won kwa sise wo case wo da wodro kwato dam jet da be na abwa kwato abebere kwa kwato no so ibɔhwɛ sɛ na with scan about to nti akɔhwɛ honorable Haruna Idrisu ɔyɛ some chef president command no the ultimate to name yaba
to expand and provide access to quality, equitable, inclusive education. The coincidence this afternoon is that we have been meeting as a ministry in the last 2 days with all our heads of agencies in a manner that we will reflect to deepen collaboration and partnership as we deliver on our mandate as a ministry, and to remind heads of institutions and agencies of your obligation to work together to provide for the quality, inclusive, equitable education. So I recognize Chief Executive Student Loan Trust. I recognize Director of Policy at the Ministry. And then to remind us that in the NDC manifesto, which won the elections for President Mahama in 2024, there are 107 distinct commitments in the manifesto relating to education. And these commitments are not just mere promises, but a social contract we have signed on with the people of Ghana. Therefore, we owe accountability to the Ghanaian people. I've always maintained and insisted that the sovereign is the people of Ghana, and they are the source of power, and it's for them into whom we exercise power. So we need to improve our delivery and performance. And I would like to highlight more importantly that going forward, all the manifesto commitments will be refined into performance agreements for all of you who are heads of institutions, so that will be measured. In education, we are now emphasizing data evidence-based decision making. And therefore, all the manifesto commitment will be refined into performance agreement. This will be signed between myself, heads of agencies. That will represent a significant shift of our intention to ensure and guarantee accountability to the Ghanaian people. Then, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I've had the privilege to engage heads of agencies under the ministry, as I have indicated. And today, you are aware that on Thursday, 13 November 2025, the Honorable Minister for Finance, the Honorable Atuforsen, on behalf of His Excellency the President of Ghana, and in accordance with Article 179 of the 1992 Constitution, presented the budget statement and economic policy to Parliament as mandated by our Constitution. And pursuant to the Public Financial Management Act, he made references to them. And then, knowing that there are uncertainties which will still characterize our economy and technological shifts, we still have to finance and ensure that we provide inclusive, high-quality education. And we build a solid education system under President Mahama's reset. I'm here to provide clarity and insights into what this budget means for the education sector. I will share our key priorities, the strategic investments we are making, and how this aligns with our overarching commitment to reset and transform Ghana's education landscape. The 2026 budget provides an opportunity to consolidate some gains we have made, accelerate some reforms, and allocate areas to where they are most needed. But I should start by saying that the requirement to finance Ghana's education system probably may be huger or huge, more huge, whichever words you choose, than the budget may be able to provide for us. We need more, but within the constraints of the budget, we can only share with you. If you look at the 2026 financial year, those of you who are familiar with the budget statement, you can go to page 183 and 184 in particular, where the appendix is shared. You will see an allocation of 39.2 billion to deliver our planned programs and interventions across basic, secondary, and tertiary education. Of it, 33.76 billion will come from the Government of Ghana funds, We expect 3.68 billion from internally generated funds and 1.8 billion from development partners through loans and grants. The allocation represents a 23% increase over the 2025 approved budget. It reflects the commitment of government to expanding access and improving quality from basic education to higher education or tertiary education, and to recognize that education holds a key to Ghana facilitating and guaranteeing sustainable, meaningful development for our country. The budget structure, don't forget, education remains Ghana's largest employer. So the Director General of GES is here. I understand that some striking teachers are looking for us on the streets of Accra. And then to respond to them, that Cabinet gave approval for us to recruit some 6,100 more teachers. And therefore, that category of teachers which belong to the 2023 cohort are adequately captured. I'll be surprised if it is the same group that is on the street. They rather should be looking for us and going back to offices for purpose of audit and identification to be reinstated to be paid. In addition to the allocation of 39.23 billion, the Ghana Education Fund has been allocated 9.9 billion, including 42 billion earmarked for free senior high school and free TVET infrastructure and services. I've heard some commentaries in the media that there is no allocation, no provision for free senior high school. That is not practically possible. If you recall, in the 2025 budget statement, and the budget is always done for and on behalf of the President of the Republic, which was his first budget, he indicated a major policy shift of financing free senior high school from the GET fund, and not as was the case since 2018 till 2024, when education, particularly free senior high school, was largely financed from petroleum revenue of the country, annual budget funding amount of ABFA. So the shift is that this time, GET fund will provide the financing for free senior high school. An amount of 42 billion has been allocated. When the GET fund formula gets to Parliament, you will see the actual numbers. This will provide for the feeding of students and also provide for the provision of free tertiary education for persons with disability, which we hope that the Student Loan Trust, together with the yet to be established Ghana Scholarship Authority, will collaborate to see to the disbursement of that. I'm praying that in the next couple of weeks, the President will assent to the bill if Parliament finishes its part of the work and sends the bill for presidential assent in accord with Article 106 of the Constitution. So there will still be free tertiary vocational education. And that's why I said that the financing allocation for the Ministry of Education and its agencies may not be sufficient, but at least adequate for now and adequate within the constraints of the budget. Don't forget, and ladies and gentlemen of the media, a few of you are here. I still recall before 2025, one of the most nagging questions the media asked the NDC and President Mahama was, show us one social intervention policy of your government. We have sufficiently and adequately provided and answered the Ghanaian public. I have identified three. Those of you who are more intellectual than me can add the additional ones. Mahama Cares is a social intervention policy. No fee stress is a social intervention policy. Free education for persons with disability is a social intervention policy. And therefore, our critics, you are now naysayers because we have answered you and answered you adequately. That under President Mahama's reset agenda, we have responded adequately, and he would leave that as an enduring legacy of the Mahama presidency. And no academic fees policy for all first-year students. You would note that some 537 0.4 million has been allocated for that purpose, representing 7.6% from what was allocated in 2025. And many of the students are grateful for that intervention, and that takes a burden off parents and the students. And for President Mahama and the Ministry of Education, no child should be left behind because the person is financially disadvantaged. And therefore, we have also expanded the remit of the student loan trust into the plus one they have. Even students of Ghana School of Law who hitherto did not benefit from it, we've expanded it for them to benefit. So in total, 4.2 billion has been dedicated to sustaining and improving the free senior high school and free TVET program. This investment will ensure that every Ghanaian child, regardless of background, has access to secondary education. We will do everything possible. Last year, it was 3.5 billion in the 2025 budget. So from 4.2 billion is an appreciable increase. Part of the crisis in free senior high school is infrastructure. The lack of, or call it inadequate, classroom, dormitories, laboratories, ICT centers to turn them digital, would embark on one of the most ambitious education infrastructure programs. So that explains what the Minister of Finance explained, that there will be 200 kindergarten blocks, 200 primary schools, and 200 junior high schools, and then 400 teacher bungalows, and 400 modern sanitary facilities. I may just want to emphasize one of it. The junior high school concept. Many of you, those of you who are privileged to have been born urban and live in urban areas, your story may not be the same as mine. In rural areas, there are some communities where children have to walk a mile, sometimes up to a 2, in order to be able to access junior high school education. And in many instances, we have 12 to 13 communities that combine to be able to have access to a junior high school. The intervention of the 200 junior high school is to resolve and respond to the need across the country. So we will do that. And then on teachers bungalow, as you recall in the manifesto, we promised Teacher Dabre. It was one of President Mahama's flagship pledges to the Ghanaian people. I'm currently reviewing a paper and a proposal from the District Assembly Common Fund. And District Assembly Common Fund, GET Fund, GSOP, the pension fund of the teachers, and the Teachers Union, we intend to embark on a provision of 50,000 housing units for teachers under that combined effort. The administrator of the District Assembly Common Fund was in Morocco a while ago, a few weeks ago, to engage with some of the partners. What we need is to identify what the funding mechanism will be for the delivery of it. Then to emphasize that it is not the wish of President Mahama that any new education infrastructure is built without sanitary facilities, particularly changing room for girls. Director General GES, so a must that when your procurement unit is undertaking any procurement of a classroom and a dormitory, it's important that the sanitary facilities are attached to them. Currently across the country, we have unsatisfactory state of many of those sanitary facilities. We are talking to some donors to see how we get that done. A significant intervention to end the double track phenomena. You remember double track? Those of you who said red, gold, green. This one, not for traffic lights purposes, but for us in education, it necessarily and avoidably contributed to low quality of education because the number of time hours spent between students and teachers was affected by the double track. Many of the school girls and boys spend more time at home and less time in school. We can respond to it through expanded infrastructure, through a digital provision, and we are happy to announce a new flagship program known as the Ghana Secondary Learning Improvement Program, a 2-year World Bank supported project valued at $180 million US dollars. The World Bank team is in town. They are doing this assessment across the country, and they would also even further support some of the e-block initiative that was started and not completed. So be assured that we would come back to you. In 2026, a total of 1.1 billion has been allocated under the Ghana Secondary Education Learning Improvement Program to execute infrastructure expansion and, more importantly, quality improvement, which is about teachers. I have maintained all the time that the quality of a student is a function of a good teacher, and therefore we need to boost their morale, work to improve their conditions of service with teacher Dabre. I know for many teachers, improve conditions of service meant that I should increase basic salary tomorrow, and then they'll be able to smile at government. So we will expand, and let me give you the background to it. We would expand a number of Category A schools, and we intend to expand 10 Category B schools to A, and 10 Category C schools to B, and then expand some areas. And then to many of the schools that may be listening to me, on my way here, I have added Mankrasu Senior High School based on their performance at the National Maths and Science Quiz. My heart is warmed to reach out to them to know that the country appreciates that, given the deprivation, they have demonstrated excellence and academic pursuit. So I'm still monitoring. There's also a school in the Eastern Region, Cedi, where their student became a best science student, yet they have no science laboratory. I'll reward them with a laboratory into next year. We intend under the 180 million US dollars to complete 30 community day senior high schools, what is referred to as the E-block. So I recognize that the Director General of GTech is in. When I get to teacher education, I'll come to you and see what we are able to do together. And then for higher education, we want to establish 2 new technical universities in Jessica, Techima, and Damongo. But now Damongo is getting the University of Science and Technology in Damongo. So I may have to take a decision, but in consultation with the president. Originally, the thought was to situate a technical university in Damongo. So now that they have a science and technology university, maybe I'll shift focus to do Jessica and Techima and still give Damongo the science and technology university in order to get equity. But because the remit of a technical university is different from a science and technology university, I want all 3 to take off. I met with the contractors this morning. Once they get guarantees from Get Fund, they may be able to get them going simultaneously. So Techima, Jessica, and Techima will benefit from that. And then we would begin the process to create 2 new public universities in Kintampo. And now I'm looking at Achrenswa in the Ahafo region, so that at least the president desired that every region has a dedicated institution of higher learning would have been answered. We'll send a team shortly to do a need assessment of Achrenswa. It may include Kenyasi, depending upon their relationship with UNER. We expect that next year, the University of Engineering and Agricultural Sciences at Bunsu will take off with some satellite universities in other parts of the country. In addition to this reform, we want to promote literacy and then reading culture. So for emphasis, if you take the Get Fund formula, I've been in Parliament in the last 21 years or 20 years, I'm told. You see that in Get Fund allocations, we leave out, for instance, an account which is required by law for persons with special needs, Ghana Library Authority, and then distance learning. I intend to correct that in the formula and ensure that these 3 components becomes an integral part of every Get Fund formula presented to Parliament, so that every year Ghana Library Authority is assured of a minimum allocation which will allow them to do the Sunyani library for the Omahini of Sunyani, his people, or in Eastern Region or in Bolgatanga where they have none, or even in the Central or Western Region. Then also, distinguished ladies and gentlemen of the press, I have a duty to work with you. Ghana's reading culture is at if I say all-time low, they will quote me tomorrow and say Haruna says reading culture is at all-time low. So our reading culture is not the best. And all of us have to encourage and get the culture of reading enhanced. And we can do so, those of you who are parents, guide the little ones to love to read, love to learn, and that is the best way they can enrich their knowledge and they become strong person. So we intend to improve the digital library architecture of the country and extend learning resources to every part of the country. Now, ladies and gentlemen, permit me to what may be the best news in the 2026 budget for President Mahama and for the Ghanaian people. I visited the Akwapim Akropong School for the Blind, as well as several other special and inclusive schools. What I witnessed there, I recognize Professor Chair of GTech has just joined us. Prof, I recognize you, Prof Mahama. So I'm now on special education, and I have submitted a comprehensive policy paper to Cabinet to look at the possibility of introducing free education for all learners in special and integrated schools across the country. I intend that if I get the support of the President and Cabinet, for which I trust I have, from 1st January 2026, we should be able to provide for the needs of all learners with special needs in our country, including the provision of devices for persons who are visually impaired, those with hearing difficulties, and others. What I noticed as I went to Akropong was that even feeding, they still depended on government grants. That is not good enough. So we extend school feeding to all the special needs and integrated schools in the country. And for me, that will be the best intervention of meeting the needs of distressed, marginalized learners in the provision of our educational system. Accordingly, I've requested and directed Get Fund to make a minimum allocation of 65 million Ghana cedis to support the initiative of supporting all learners with special needs. So again, ladies and gentlemen of the media, don't say I didn't see this in the budget. You will see it in the Get Fund formula. What the President have done, for which I've committed my signature, is that Get Fund will now essentially be responsible for the financing of free senior high school, free education, free tertiary education for all persons with disability, and free education for persons with special needs. All we are doing is to offload the financing of that from the consolidated fund into the Ghana Education Trust Fund. The law anticipated that even in its original proposition and thought as an act. So our budget this year is bold and strategic, and we think that is forward looking. I should end once again by referring you to page 183, 184 of the budget statement. And ladies and gentlemen of the media, I should be concluding so that I can take a few questions or remarks. But let the questions stay to budget. How I'm going to finance free senior high school. How President Mahama and the NDC will honor the pledge to the Ghanaian people. And for many of you, as I've emphasized, for free senior high school, many of the institutions have doubled their intake from maybe 1,400 to 4,400, but still living with the same infrastructure. So the Ghana Education Service deserves all our support in terms of budgetary allocation beyond salaries, in order that they will respond to the infrastructure needs of our schools. So let me pause here. And to those of you, I won't say men of little faith, have confidence and trust in President Mahama. 2025 was the beginning of his reset initiative, which primarily focused on correcting the wrongs in the management of the economy before the period 2025. And I'm sure the focus into 2026 will be to consolidate the gains made in 2025 in the management of the economy. And without any fear of contradiction, President Mahama is managing the economy better than Nana Addo Dankwa as President of the Republic of Ghana. In terms of debt management, we have demonstrated superior management of debt. If you doubt me, go to President Akufo-Addo's own speech at the Brussels conference when he said that one of his regrets is submitting Ghana to a debt exchange. We are not out of the woods of his debt exchange yet. It's diluted the value of people's earnings. It's diluted the value of people's pension. And the currency is at least stable. Those of you who followed me as minority leader, I used to say epileptic fall of the city. Now the epilepsy is seasoned and is getting better. The trust is for us to sustain inflation, which is at single digit, and also not have the appetite to want to borrow, and also lead the country to what Nana Addo Dankwa have regretted. So we have to manage our appetite for debt, and it means we must manage our appetite for borrowing. It is my conviction that into 2026, President Mahama will focus primarily on resenting Ghana with his governance agenda of leading the process for constitutional, administrative, and legal reforms of the country so that we can serve the country better. He has no opportunity than the sizable majority or extraordinary majority in Parliament to lead the reforms. And I promise you, he will lead the reforms, resetting our governance processes, legal, administrative, and constitutional. And I want to call it here and then hear your questions. So the Ministry of Education, in terms of budgetary allocation, comparatively, every country must focus on human resource development. And every country must invest in human capital development if it's to attain SDG 4. And this government, and my priority has been to invest more in foundational learning and basic education. There is a paradox, and that paradox is informed by what we inherited from the free senior high school. You cannot be allocating 4.2 billion for free senior high school. Then when basic education get less of 1 billion, you say we are not doing good enough. That is a paradox I'm explaining. And I do believe that additional funding may be required. And then I've had some few questions about TVET into 2027. Last year we announced in the budget a TVET fund. Some 100 million Ghana cedis was allocated for TVET. I met with our donors today, including KFW, and we are thinking that if we are able to honor some of our TVET obligations in terms of counterpart funding from that 100 million, we should be able to unlock some 45 million euro to support technical and vocational education. It is my strong conviction that the best way to address the growing youth unemployment and underemployment is to address the employability question. And that can only be addressed with increased investment in technical and vocational education. I thank you all, and I'm happy to take a few questions. God bless. Oh, 5.
Kwankyerɛ fo hwɛ wo masua do waba bensem ni sika ne de bebia bia ne sabaka ne de physical challenge for ni hina bebia everywhere nti dem using ke bonitira so kura no You can't run away that there's no money. You can't, because abana the hun akumoska dama our shuffle or the chairman to the chaganafo. So you cannot run away. Why you be you? As well, Anka banana missing Akasa.
Come on, no, as I can. There, say a year aban nejme. Na say at Nawa, Madame Bageti, Wakan, we. Na say better my for no quite an abbey. Naba catch them a day. Inyi logistics. Inyi akada. Edi wujumana. Kamu order yabo wombay. Yes, order yabo wombay. Usan no kasan. Oche bibi there. On now from that what that man. Onye agencies ashaya what bomokrom woye Ministry of Education. Onye we na atre from wajibia ni susin kono bo foda wona from na what that mo wo be chemu biara wide we nyi. Nti say agency na share oya local government ase. Na say why budget allocation that local government. Na say abatan woni wi abaka kire inya kada de beye duma ode ye bombay kamo yes ode ye bombay o se na budget wo ye ba obi ale premito intin tumi ntawa na nkare won fa medembay won fa mro kamo that's the question won na on fa wo budget fa mro wa bra national cake obi a twene sekan obi a twene no kopo anade ne chance ne dedi na will trauma wa chewe no we wa ka wo so baje ana wa foda baje odi debi forward ko fa wo so ubolu ko da ka di odi ban e ko no wa ma wa ne chere baka no wa sam no na abama ahinya ya ka bia mo de mo krai ma budget am ni ko yi 2024 the budget ko wan kasa mu 2025 the budget ko wan kasa mu na 2026 e chim da man san chofre anwa twese mo boa ne bu na mpa abanan so no mori yina no politics campaigning oyen on all ye na emum nye de djuma na orbaye o sana campaign or promise mayedam inti our agency na wada da won on them the one make campaign promises wo feminity our from them we can one family na emum be bio odi ye campaign politics na di o make sure there na budget allocation miskan without quarrel fa ke de be djuma ntikamo saka wa mo onyi logistics be na some ko no bo ha no reduce kanya especially kamo men sham ko moban men sham ko miyan ko mshen lemum mususi ma assembly okay there since a free education what do you say kama get fan kamo show
abena o de bi ko akeka ho no o de bi mo ho de daado de bi le kakeka ho mo to
assembly okay o si free education
Sikano.
Yeah.
With the Kaka get fan expenses already get fan and they have the allocation that we must gather. No, this house would the Kaka come. I'm up and there in terms of weather, in terms of reporting, in terms of monitoring. Tomorrow, why I quit.
Kamu. Get fan no law. What did I do? Put on watching. Get fan no. What did I do? So get fan. I don't know my scholarship. Get fund and our number secondary school and tertiary institutions one of blocks saka hostel a dormitory in the Yinadin get fund was an emboa until what the school about the school feeding so a free senior high school so the get fund
told the who's coming but us. Now when I saw the say what's the cacao for 2 minutes with you many here I reappear nti honorable Harry Idrisu Alhaji assalamu alaikum irasipi da zimba be maba Ghana ye kwakoto oye yumihen ni nsudihen akaban yemfa budget a wodokota de yemfa ntoro na yehweye ye senfom wasa budget dadi na yakohwe sikabote no do some 1.2 billion US dollars wosa wode ye yumihen ebien presidential jet oya yumi hene bien tama so na nsudi hen no so presidential one no so oya ship no so ebien the Ghana issue in Suya Yefadi. Yes, honey. Government allocates $1.2 billion to buy 4 presidential helicopters. Now, two presidential jets and 2 presidential ships. The Ghana chair, which is the ship now for you. Make seen the Rebellion home. Make a fuss with the Henny day to call President to him. And then harm.
No, I come away. Brassa in chair or there, the master may yet see young or there minority, no majority, work a boom. Ye, Mr. Rabadintra. Usande, that mean minority, and no why micro, no way majority. What could be? My majority, and no way, no way minority. What can say it?
I won't say that. President Google you. Nti so fanka shase. Nti mama nkoto ora ka shase no so discussion because all the baby no will add because shase nti so nsan ka shase. Onya no discussion.
Nti nche why allocated. Wonji ntom. Budget so man would debate one. Na him there nda no change na no debate no bokodo. What's biala nda de no ochina anhye so bia no nkomo no yebobo. Ugura would debate hu. Say my info be am saka kire honorable Kojo Ponkroma we read the issue. Them government allocate 1.2 billion now the quarter presidential jet no you know ship no. Kamo boni nyim. O man Ghana yedum pempenda de bia maka. There e brasa o de yeja there yeja there yetwa masam no twin ansa na yabo hu pichi ye twa na no. Brasa de ma de yeja. Intino embrace all the yet ho na ya plan ahead on e kwabotwefo won se won moto ya twene hwekan atase intino on phone there ye MPP on phone there ye NDC now atino hiayen yeah atino hiya magana o se ne yedem payfu yara woro ko woro bayale Sesi said there some to be sisiala. O man Ghana na aboto. Come what you say you a presidential jet na dia. Nchadama da no helicopter ya. Oye nchenche. Nchenche milkese no hunsemi obo moti. Anamoboa. Da mono so baba ma omba de ma ya ka hai na ya ka rent ya ba. Na ya ka rent edoko. Na ya ka wa be de ma ya rent ya no. Afibiara omam pain went to Konokra, one kunya nje sabuchikra, maybe a yabetan. Afibia one kokra, maybe a yabetan. Intise, young fanda samakara 1.2 billion ya in the where she should have what cote. The man come to do music or bubble the music out of the koto or ye helicopter. Inti order ye nyina Ghana fo no ye gitum yo yate wonkoto mre che wokoto ba adere wokoto aba no sedwa obeyo manager pade demre honorable ko be fia dada ne ka no use anana no so for free bay o use no efe inti sabere koto da ono ye na ye beta nchi barkamu adukra ye o inde wunya nkokoto na lo ye awu koto nda no ye kamu asama asembi so owen damo no ma omanu ntomponen yeah atase ntinche why there munya nkokoto maintain mu ankoto na me mokoto da mo ma yanku ntem na mokoto abi ntodo bambe shebogom wa yebo he kono boforo wa jato
ye bambe
on we pay ma kebem kebe amembu no ko hin
yeah I know we live to see dame sami na an yitum na ye kan em mpa ye ba na ma so din kan no me gizi there majority currently we have education what the means nti why when I been there there are many So if the minority are not ready, cry, na mom that may can what a journey shock. Chinabi, ne baby sir, we should not wait. At the end, Chamani baby over father. Abansana, the two no either. The penny I shall say, I mean, Monday I saw the two together, and said, man, penny. That is true. They are from now, ocean, no one. When a nephew see go her, a man penny or a German. Hey, so we create problem and we consult. I tell you, I am going to be. Impanala or Conor, you are. Impanala or dop head and chop it open. He's not there, she's not there. Why? Man, yes, I arrangement. Why into why the European the marriage? Young Lord Mayor. France National Science and Math Quiz. The whole country. On was it? It didn't mean I'm a win B when you work with A category C, Robert School B, be a friend school no science lab you want now so called math science quiz. I'm gonna debut a wobbin. Why, then, first year in the mayor in summer, or Baba can South to McCain, yeah, Baba Bim Kaka, near name.
I asked the director that we compile all the stored projects from the various senior high schools to get front office. If I want to go there, the administrator, after going through the list, saw in front of me, you have a stored project here in front of me. I went with my PA and he said that in fact, once Infant's project is part of the project, they are not going to hesitate and come and do the project for Cape Coast schools. I mean, so it's because of Infant's, because of the name Infant's and the school. Cape Coast school stored project will be attended to. I asked the director that we compile all the stored projects from the various senior high schools to get front office. If I want to go there, the administrator, after going through the list, saw in front of me, you have a stored project here in front of me. I went with my PA and he said that in fact, once Infant's project is part of the project, they are not going to hesitate and come and do the project for Cape Coast schools. I mean, so it's because of Infant's, because of the name Infant's and the school. Cape Coast school stored project will be attended to.
Yes, during your kind of now, she will look one. Yeah, them go off now to convent now. Or the convent to ya, Yisika, would you be? O student, oh, more I had. As well, it didn't make you hear me somewhere.
Oh, yeah, come no quarrel me there, and answer the best needs and come before, or yeah, old student, old boys and girls. Cape Coast, schools are Kasaka, so Wahano. One old student, Wariadi. In fact, they are doing very, 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 very well for there. One Alma Mater. No quarrel me there, Equus into Gassensa, in project Torocodo, Econ Fantipima, in project Torocodo, Eco Wissing High School, in project Torocodo, at the Sada College, Holy Child, Ghana National, Agri Memorial. Today, schools are Kasa, the backend there, why you do an old student, while a woman school no, or Lutumpon. One abado, the man not sing, a bit so na Osha Mussing, of if you no such a man is wider. This 82. And say, Fancy Pim School, no quenny, one must see a Cape Coast in the general, Wakos, Achembe and Cano. And Chowon, and say, Yabada, Cheche, your wasi, Cheche, pay a Cheche free now. Now, Yabada, oh yeah, a Cheche, you pay no, oh yeah, Reverend Ebenezer Edu. Yes, Reverend Ebenezer Edu. Say Edu, obey Edu. Aha, another Edu, Yadanasi, Nayada, a Cheche free now, so assisted Rampo, one now. Watch them from Manadi or yeah, one classrooms, no, Yadama Sapa Papa and Mola, way to that boy, you got man the 50 man to one Mississippi, Cape Coast, Nidin, Aquason, Yadamasi. A man was Papa, done for him, more to know words the moon, no way at the mum.
There are 3 schools at the final, 2 were Cape Coast and Central Region, 1 of Kumasi. So Maji ko Kumasi in Chayenda. Hey, what is the uncle? I want
to tell the last one go. It is a Bakaya. Ansana, Wabashe, Fanas and Nas, Macasembi, Macasem Fiade, Safana Fan can. On it,
for the Grayant, Macanca,
some fat or gases what my a pemprebia. Ano pokuara pempre o pokuare so my fe pokumasi yay come on che enchemeke say eche
catch a very big cry. Very big crime.
Ka we che no kwenye twa ka we che twa no hokon wi
then social media so che wa you hu kuma se fe wa social media utum di dagura we be tinkan fu
sharp akai now this is or your free of fat if you know the gases
mo kura anje or the kwai oyo kumasi
ma ugbe ma what to hatching abai e je se me kese wo de
anti wo mo nuri o to do wa no mkwano abia na wo de na mkwano ya abia na
but really I
don't yeah me and echi bobo mpefo na abado kan ka cheche pain na chechira fo a wotumo boy na me sure papa he lord mayor he osabarama kusata he fifimantom shafo wo me sure kwanchefo mpanyifo wo gwe me san fifimantom awon nyina egbo nsem papa da ba ma he ne former regional director of education eje KOFI ESSUMAN of fee Western Region Sanabay. San wa transfer ya wa transfer ya san e be.
Oh, say Suman.
This where there was baba ti ade na chi pinti no do be bi nche mo hwe na nchema from la ko do eni wa be. The director general of ministry na hu ya o kan ho o ko kata na chi nte ba dem pefin ya se Ghana man pe na se na Jason period in semi to ga chen sem da kwani biara do no Bank of Ghana when you entity so confirm aye timemfo 1 ekwana ba for the year to gwa is Ghana sika ambane wa Ghana ha na so ban $1 na etumi di gwa 2 ekwana ba for da yetum na ya hwe ya cross kan ye na afi yetum na je jujuma so the Ghana sika bi mo wo kran yi dedam mi so ti te chere free yara na wa ya wa be potoyo wa be se kra wa be se na so amba ne de ibinu ya $1 momo anu no da hye kotokum never wa mo mpo obetinum ibi kura kofi okoto no de hye no wallet or hwe $1 ne ye wa da yan kese hiska intumi nkwani ye tin man pay no de nsem pie tuma atuga wa ye Bank of Ghana ejito Bank of Ghana so assignment on man pay da mahene no we should do it mama entina ho akura because ibinu mu hie education agaza akwa amananza woton biru wo ho na woton biru wo ho but woton anyina no ma anyina tumu wotwa bi wodokọ woni dem kokon agam hodem yehyew na hon pepelesen odoso umfa sika kinisika da to adini ya penem na abasana but ahona wo sika pa wo oya Ghana ha ibirofo ahe obi di first awon so ogbo miska na wa ye fini tumi tintin ye pa de eye mate fufu a ahwe me impoko be defense because at the scam me mate ya amomon mate bi ye mber wa tintin skan nyina sana wa ile so 10 December 5 December 1 December 20 mba 50 mba 100 mba wa shini na fine mate the scam mo kana etere show no kana mo wa tintin ma wa de mo iska bunya boson kwaje asore dem sikan wi no fofo na so mommo anu de ti agbansam da we bakoto box no sikan abre inketa man payin zo to mo tuba the Bank of Ghana we dwumaye.
In the past, when we traveled with our security and drivers and others, and they got their per diem, maybe $500 or $1,000, whatever it is. anytime they went to the shop to buy a few things and bring home, they always use their calculator on their phone. And so if they see a shoe and they say, oh, the shoe is 120 pounds, they will calculate 120 pounds into cedis and say, what? When they see how many cedis they will get for this shoe, they'll be made to KOFI. And I'm sure that they will not be very happy with the Bank of Ghana and Governor ESSUMAN, because now when they use that calculator, it will not be as much as it used to be before. A relative of mine was going to buy a car and asked for an invoice from one of the car dealers. And when the invoice came, showed it to me. And I was surprised to note that the invoice was quoted in cedis, no dollars. A few years ago, if you were going to buy a car, the invoice they'll give you is quoted in dollars. Today, people are quoting in cedis, even house rents. You want to pay in dollars, it says, no, you pay me cedis. I just want to say that the governor and all your people, your team at the Bank of Ghana, the Ministry of Finance, Bank of Ghana, the Ministry of Finance, Ghanaians are grateful to you for the management of our currency. I think that a lot of respect has returned to our currency, and it's my hope that you keep whatever you're doing to make sure that we don't have excess liquidity. All those words you people have, open market operations, whatever those your technical jargons are, whatever you're doing, continue doing so that the cedi is respected. And so allow me to proceed on established protocol and acknowledge the governor and your team and our visitors from outside, currency research, and all of you, and thank you for putting up this conference. And so it's a profound honor for me to join you for this historic Cedi at 60 International Conference, a gathering of leaders, innovators, policymakers, and practitioners whose work influences the past, present, and the future of money. I wish to commend the Bank of Ghana and the currency research team for uniting such a distinguished community to discuss the evolving framework for currency management, monetary governance, and digital finance. Your deliberations over the next 2 days reaffirm a fundamental truth, that the future of money is inextricably linked to the future of national development, institutional credibility, and Ghana took a bold and sovereign step by introducing the cedi, not merely as a unit of account or a medium of exchange, but as a declaration of independence, our identity, and the capacity of our state. And so the cedi symbolizes our national aspiration to govern our own affairs, regulate our markets, and stand shoulder to shoulder with other nations in managing our own monetary destinies. Over 60 years now, the cedi has, one, anchored the conduct of our monetary policy. It has shaped the expectations of households and businesses. It has absorbed shocks, domestic, regional, and global, and symbolized the resilience of the Ghanaian economy and the Ghanaian people. And so the cedi at 60, it is a chance to consider what our currency stands for, how it has developed, and how it must be fortified for the years ahead. This conference takes place against the backdrop of a rapidly shifting global monetary landscape, from the rise of central bank digital currencies, from increasing cyber vulnerabilities to the renewed role of cash as an anchor of resilience during crisis. The world is witnessing the emergence of a hybrid monetary ecosystem. And in this new paradigm, cash, electronic payments, and digital assets coexist. Traditional models of monetary policy are being tested. Trust in institutions has become as crucial as technical capacity. And this new reality places a significant responsibility on our central banks, not just as regulators of money, but as guardians of trust. And so this conference provides Ghana and Africa with an invaluable platform for evidence-based dialogue, comparative learning, and forward-looking policy innovation. And so, ladies and gentlemen, the importance of this engagement is heightened by Ghana's notable progress over the past 10 months in achieving macroeconomic stability and restoring confidence in our economy and our currency. And so allow me to highlight some key developments. One, macroeconomic stabilization through disciplined fiscal consolidation, increased domestic revenue mobilization, prudent expenditure rationalization, and better coordination between fiscal and monetary authorities. Through this, we have restored balance and reduced uncertainty. Inflation has continued to decline, and expectations are more firmly anchored today. The second is the strengthening of the cedi. Improved forex liquidity management, enhanced reserve buffers, and the regulatory reforms have contributed to significant exchange rate stability, which is critical for business planning, investment decisions, and public confidence. And the next is rising confidence indicators. Business sentiments, consumer surveys, and investment outlook reports all indicate a steady recovery of our economy. Our development partners, the financial markets, and the global rating agencies have acknowledged these reforms. And so these efforts have culminated in a significant sign of credibility. Ghana's sovereign rating by S&P was upgraded recently from CCC+/C to B- B with a stable outlook on 7th November 2025. And that is why I give credit to our finance ministry and our central bank, the Bank of Ghana. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an affirmation that our fundamentals are strengthening and that we're on a clear path of recovery. These gains must be protected, consolidated, and expanded through policy discipline and institutional coherence. A core principle of effective economic management is an independent, credible, and professionally insulated central bank. And so let me state unequivocally that the government of Ghana is firmly committed to safeguarding the independence of the Bank of Ghana. A strong and autonomous central bank is essential for anchoring inflation expectations, for maintaining exchange rate stability, for enhancing investor and market confidence, and ensuring long-term policy credibility. This is not a matter of personal preference. It is an economic necessity. A modern currency regime requires not only strong institutions, but also an informed and responsible public. I therefore urge the Bank of Ghana to strengthen nationwide public education in 3 critical areas. The first is promoting the use of the cedi in all domestic transactions. Using the national currency strengthens economic stability and reduces unnecessary exposure to exchange rate volatility. The second is improving currency handling practices. Poor handling practices increase printing costs, shorten the life of the currency notes in circulation, and undermine currency integrity. We must promote respect, proper storage, and responsible use of the Ghanaian cedi. And the third is enhancing financial literacy. An informed citizenry is better able to prevent fraud, demand accountability, and bolster the financial ecosystem. So public education must extend to schools, to the markets, to transport unions, to digital platforms, and especially to rural communities. The 60th anniversary of the cedi is of deep national and policy relevance. It is a moment to assess the evolution of our monetary framework and draw lessons for future reforms. A currency is ultimately a social contract built on confidence, credibility, and transparency. And this conference will inform the next generation of reforms, ensuring that the Cedi remains robust, secure, and relevant. And I'm confident that this conference will contribute meaningfully to promoting peer learning amongst.
Damin Samina no man paying autumna wabachishim. I'm a mod be butcher crown or a major sampa. Mother Betchery, a corner for that, yetumna, yet Ghani's car, I Ghanage did gua. Sunday, my urban is a foreign currency, the bay exchange. He exchange, you know, between with Jananado. Fiscal Jiska, the doom biaran with an animal. Here, Bomason, ya cross Kenny ye, ya crane ye. Ama ne printing ya mbaka kwa sagana isi kapa waka print o baka na o print ni nara o da bo na fe tumi ye lorry stations online education nchache de umo mazina ne mo uma fansam chofo na nchancha region bia hwanwe hwoneze so na nchaka se no wo twan ka wa time yes san fi o 0 pinje da bo small 0 amampan kufo ne time oh Ibin mo cry. O cry ibin so cry so ankasa yon. Nti ye mama said the men's of na be ni. Ne da mabie no so with the hen p bay. Then the at information service of Honga. Can information service at Honga. Mampan ku for the hen bia me ze bay. Region bia bi wo no wo chegum. Ye the best says go, best says go, best says go. Bank of Ghana with me. That's what?
Bravo. I no quam dana on my pain wakano. Say, yes, or ye Yensika Sama. O ye there in there. Yet a gun, Hannah. Yenzi in cities.
Here's the dollars.
Now, a Kotaga will pay it in dollars. Or do me be out, do me, Benny, in secondary school. You're private school, my from school, the school and what you dollars. How? Usingana. What you dollars? How? Sir, if you don't have with Chiriba, invest you ha. And now all Batanka invest. And now botanically you are. On the day, Anumpa, the maybe all banquets in that, almost the cities. Now, sorry, back no, I payment in water, no, I'll convert now. Dollars with that manama. Wetu na we channel that be no that na come o we pay no nya fe ni na sikanyu bira da mo mo ko ni anka mo sikanyu bira o sande munyim da citizen was sa oboko dollars no munyim mo so chere on boala nje Ghana citizen obaji dollar nti sam fa nde se origin wa Ghana citizen na so bututu na Ghana citizen Origin dollars ma oboko be 800 no 10 times 4 nti nya dollar o no bo ka choro imagine cities they be no choro dollars nti so man pay wa kan kamu amede bia ma sema makan de ye na kabimam kabi na hina membu asisa yebu no so be ya ofimpan fa wo so wo yara go so won the sisa se kasam no tutu ado wona afo anodo wona abom wan tutu ni ye Mawa wara kara sengedege tia ye njire de mesengedege ti oyala mabra bonu ehum obede yiru no malo bam 12 13 14 ye wo to 18 19 na cha baba anu nyame na ora ye anu nyame na ahwa no de ye de blame de mo wo san wo fa ko mfa mbran ahwala na wudi makotin kabo amemala mejehi man ka the last time na dollar one or cham and watch
Mufumu susa
ebe no mufumu susa na mu wofa bia an po mu wofa onya mu wofa be me mfa na papa na yanko bi ofi talibai na eja ore chai workshop ma okafa Italy sikebi other be ma eja an po o sey mpa woni na jama sika no mi do so na ka sa kwansa iti onya banama ne ibi so hu de adani asikase dollar could do 17 ebe na me yanko bi ola masa mama ka se bin face no obokọ so na no so ka san na oche no so enyiska so ka $6 ka se be mo fa na da member last year 2024 2025 no ka se be 1,500 Ghana cedi no sharo le yi abai 3 months later
owa kana no bi
kana na why deja na mna se Ghana he yala ka se scapion for so abai onande sisiale wo calculate mpo chere won tado abuchu ba boton Ghana because of sikari bobi okudu ahwanu mo okudu nza ho aso mo nyina wala ka o masama
right on che biara mo hene modo na yekoya mampayin ausra ai bayine behin bisiane bisia o ka sha sibim ami da men sha sin mpo on forma jondo aso ka jone yawde
kamo na ye ame kawo me yi problem hwe me yen kan kwar ma yen ho de bia maka da masem de wo ma me ko ugodo no mbai nurse wa ba wona na kwamade
wala
wona kwamade atma say de baby a onnobo Sam George oye na Ghana wona we hu ko social media na type onnobo Sam George the first thing first obaba wanye na gbe na ogbo na so mu na obenu agtb ki asama okakan ono no ma sabdo de wo Ghana
ndo wa kana na to
kamo so wo sha sew so ka fa do no kamo yin problem so wo sha sew bu wie you were 3 years ahead o yin bia wo sha sew bu wie kono wo fa do wo yema on the man nka no man pay na dan kwa akofado adin koto nanyima wan kasa won da mo kwana so bo fado waye na so ka da ma ne ma no so bo hwe kamo mi nyi haw wapia won kere oh ya sha safi e be sha sinisia problem yim na da ba no da wan oda samudo
na afi mo won sha si
kamo mesi da ba no da wan oda samudo now say obaka cha hende wor kasha si ebia ibakara nkata sama osanda kata ebia kirewa yewo yemfa da say researcher yewo yewo bibi introduction atase
to intro
na yewo topic at the head na da man tie wo ebia da man no ebia wo chekere obobo agbedini bi the president of Republic of Ghana na dankwa akufado onu ne di na o shankata nyase ndo no no san
na no ye wi an tokata ncheso ne di babu
ntimaba nti so obasha se de dam na obakare nkata sam ne nti na ebasha se da o sa na kata be obaye bia no ye wi a at the end of fundings wona na wo de kam wa akasan president of Republic of Ghana His Excellency John Dramani Mahama order the meeting ba nti se dam kata na da do no do won wo kafa bata ano nye djuma kamonda no menyi ba yadwen kata da do no do kafa ba onye djuma because it did not semen onye president of it didn't by a former president into no I the administratively oba said the man kata no was said why was said the meeting ya the president dashim ana de awon wodo oba shase for free won kafa me no won shase for free kamu ya twa won 4 years all banasalo kamo
ayaguzo
ma onye won dede o de be shase no onye won dewre won shase oba botwen kamo oba kwa botwen de yetiga na hane ye ba fie yoko na ye bisa won de ahwa na wakai wa bandan kamo mesi aya politicians won fa da bi tu won fo na da mi ya okodu ya da nu yale 2024 NPP sha majority ukite mende we macro ebe kamo bi ba senese bio kamo abai bi mini macro minority mini macro minority wa Ghana na one time mbese bogbo mo no fa mo samna no de ye be shase oba botu constituency nim kamo oba botu demre ponkonu dua wanka konfi wan ponkonu dua wanka ponkonu tunu onka konfi ni nsem anani nsem da ngotofom no tofoma na hina e ma du tofo e ba chere me bia tum no wo won to no kro ba shase
right na jumedini ya IBC bada ASORBA papa Uncle Ben ye min sure papa the Abostani